Good morning and welcome to Healthy Marketing. It is Krishna Everson, your host, and today I am joined by Jennie Gorman, who's also known as the People Connector. And Jennie supports, promotes and delivers professional services to people who are committed to relationship building via masterminding, networking events and mentoring. So good morning, Jennie.
Good morning, Krishna, and it's lovely to be with you. Thank you for the invitation.
You're so welcome. And, I've been watching you on Facebook for a long time. We finally met recently and that was fantastic. And you have such a reputation for networking. And so it just seemed a no-brainer to invite you along to Healthy Marketing so we can find out a bit more about networking, how to do it well. And I'm really excited about what you're going to be sharing with us today about net weaving, which takes us a little bit deeper into building reciprocal business relationships. So I can't wait to find out more about that. Now, I want to invite the listeners who are on the webcast just to pop in who you are and where you're from and let us know you're here. And please send in your questions for Jennie to answer as we go through the call. And, any questions you have at all about networking or building good relationships. So we're going to really go into networking today and about what is good networking and also about net weaving. But Jennie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became the People Connector and really developed this passion for networking? Can you give us a bit of background?
I'd love to. I was one of those very fortunate people who was actually born in the country. And networking net weaving is what country people do naturally. Mm-hmm. So because of that as my background, I've probably been networking all my life and not even knowing it. It wasn't until probably a bit over 20 years ago that I consciously became a networker because I started to understand what the process was. So I was born with a lot of freedom, and I was lucky to be born to a very privileged background. I was sent off to boarding school as an 8-year-old, and so I really started to learn my sense of identity at about 6 years old when I started to question a lot of things about people. And then I had another great, at 8 going to boarding school, had another great awakening about, I suppose, really about learning to live with other people. I then changed boarding schools at 14 and discovered a lot of new things there, and again at 20. I was married at 20, and I was married for 20 years, have 2 beautiful children. I was divorced and have 2 beautiful grandsons who are the light of my life, and I love being able to teach them a lot of the things that I've learned along the way and hopefully make life easier for them. For me, I work in a lot of different areas because I believe in covering all people, because I believe all people need to learn how to build relationships. So consequently, I'm very, very diverse in the things that I do. For me, I live to work. My work is my play. And if you're going to be a net weaver, you need to have, your work has to be your play. So is that enough?
I love that. Yeah. And, that's really where I'm coming from as well. It's about making work fun. There's things that of course we need to do to grow great businesses, but it needs to be fun in the process. And I think that's where business is heading. That's how we want to do business now. That's why relationships are so important. So before we drill into the whole concept of net weaving, can you maybe talk about networking first and give us some clarity around what you see networking as being, and perhaps dispel some of the myths around networking. Could we start there?
Okay, then. All right. Well, first of all, to be a net weaver, you have to network, but you need to understand what networking is. And people use their different words. They talk networking, they talk word-of-mouth marketing, they talk relationship building. All these things are exactly the same. So it's depending on what circle you're in as to what the word is that you use. But traditional networking is about making contacts and connections for business and personal benefit. Strong business relationships are only built on trust and integrity from what I have learned over the years, and it is a highly effective way of promotion to obtain your long and short-term goals. But in traditional networking, the approach is different. You go to a meeting or a function with ideas of trying to gain strategic alliances that will help boost your business. In other words, the mindset is what's in it for me. And that's where the difference is, because networking is an effective way of making new contacts and developing business relationships that can be very beneficial, but there's a better and more lasting and trustworthy way to do it, and I believe that's called netweaving. So it's important to understand why you're networking, really. Why do you do it? Are you doing it for career? Are you doing it for money? Do you want a profile? Do you want to gain influence? So I believe if you're going to be a networker, you have to understand the why. Once you understand the why, then you can become proficient at networking. But up until then, it's not going to really work for you. Because depending on why we're networking is really dependent on the way we network, and it's different for different people. But when we go into netweaving, that is very different. It's a very new word in Australia. It was coined by a man called Bob Little in America, some decades ago. And I had contact with him in 2003 when I was living in America, and he actually gave me permission to use it in Australia when I came home, because I really liked the whole concept of what netweaving is all about, because it's about building bridges of trust by listening and helping others. Now, this can be done by facilitating the sharing of ideas, opinions, and experiences among participants in their circle of influence or community. Netweaving really is the building of a community. It's connecting people and positioning yourself so you become a resource to other people. So you're taking all the emphasis off you and what it is you want, you're putting all your emphasis on to other people. Is this starting to make a little bit of sense?
Yes, it is, and I've got a few questions coming up about that, but do you want to clarify a little bit more about what networking and what netweaving is? Great.
Yeah. Now, to be a netweaver, you need to have the intent to learn all that you can from as many people as possible about their businesses. You need to know their needs and their challenges so you can support them. And the only way is by listening, because you've got the contacts if you've developed a good, strong network, and we have contacts anyway, because a lot of people, when they're networking, look at someone or are introduced to someone and they just blithely think, they can't help me, so they move on to the next person. Nobody knows who knows whom. You don't know who someone's partner is, who their parents are, who their children are, where they do business, who their best friend is, and it goes on and on and on. So you should never dismiss anybody thinking they can't, you can't support them. Because if you're going to support them in their needs, they in turn will support you in yours. Getting back to netweaving, which is where you come from when you think from this different mindset, the underlying theme really of netweaving is giving without expectation of return. I can't stress that enough, and I suppose that's one of my big phrases that I use all the time. Go out there to give, not to get, because what goes around comes around. So netweaving really is the next step to networking. So until you learn the basics of networking, you can't become a netweaver.
Yes, now, I just want to go... Oh, sorry.
Yes.
I'd love to hear about your program. I just want to go into a little bit more on that very issue around you need to become proficient at networking first, because I can feel some of the listeners on the line sort of saying, me as a resource for people, I don't see myself as a resource to others. That doesn't feel comfortable. So that's what you're talking about, isn't it? It's becoming proficient as a networking worker first so that you can feel more confident as positioning yourself as a resource for other people. Is that where you're coming from?
That's what it's all about. And as I have on my website a self-appraisal, and that self-appraisal gives you the opportunity to have a look at where you are as a networker now. Now, I have people, there's 12 questions, and I have people who will do that, and they'll think, oh, my gosh, I've got 5% or 10% or 50%, whatever. It doesn't matter where you're at now, because if you don't know about something, you can't do anything about it. once you become aware that you're not doing certain things, you can then change it, because you can't do anything. What you don't know is you don't know. So by doing that self-appraisal can help you to get more clarity for yourself. And I say to people, don't beat yourself up. It doesn't really matter. Learn the skills. Anybody can learn them because that's all they are skills and learning to listen better.
So what sort of things do you teach people, Jennie, at your networking workshops where you're actually teaching? You do a one-day workshop, don't you? What sort of things would we learn there?
It's a full-day workshop. I believe it goes from 9:30 till 5, and I believe that is just touching on what networking is about. I do believe that if you don't learn the basics, and the basics can be for the do's and the don'ts, the understanding where you are now and where you want to be. It's to do with your business cards, understanding what a good business card is, having good mailing lists, being able to goal set, how to get referrals, how to break into groups. If you go to a networking function and you don't know anyone there, what do you do? There's a whole series of things that I teach that just make it easy. And I find in a workshop, it takes till after lunch, suddenly the aha goes on. Then they get it. You go away with a workbook, which you work through, but it's a very, very good resource as well for people to go back to as they hone those skills.
Now, for those who are listening now and also on the webcast, you do have a free guide that people can subscribe to on your website. The link's on the webcast there. And what's the name of that guide they can subscribe to, Jennie? The 21 tips.
Oh, there's I've got a couple of things. The free business networking tips.
Okay,
so
great.
it's the connectionsunlimited.com.au/free-business-networking-tips. But if they go onto the Connections Unlimited website, they will automatically on there see an area which says free networking tips. Click on that, and
your lovely
21 days.
Post-it notes will pop up, and they can click on that and subscribe to your e-course.
Yeah.
That's what it is, isn't it?
Yep.
21-day e-course. Fantastic.
It's a 21 days. Every day you get a very small little bit of things to do or to think about or to read. I say to people that, I know 21 days is a long time. Just have a folder, put them in there, and go through them when you've got time, if you don't have time to follow it every day. But it really is it's teaching you what you need to do so that you can hone those skills.
Okay, so can we go back to netweaving, and just clarify again for our listeners, and I want to invite them to also get pen and paper ready, because you're going to be sharing some of the practical elements of netweaving and how we can do it. But can you just clarify again the difference between netweaving and networking?
Okay. Networking is when you basically initially are meeting people. Mostly people are doing it so they can build their own networks. They can meet a whole lot of people, get to know them, and build their networking. The difference with netweaving is that it's building relationships without expectation of personal gain. It's a peer-to-peer support group of trusted business owners. And you want to share your contacts, your knowledge, your skills, your resources, and the relationships you have with people. There's no competition in netweaving. In networking, I find there's a lot of competition out there. I love to find other people who do what I do. I love to refer them. I like to go to other people's events, for instance. Anyone who's running a networking event, if I can be there, I will be there. I get 3 or 4 invitations a day for a networking event.
Yeah.
There are so many out there now, but you've got to find your niche. And if you don't understand your niche, you have to work that out and find out where do you need to position yourself. What I run is not for everybody. Just as the same as what other people run isn't for everybody. People have to find their own niche. And for me, whether they come to my events or not is irrelevant, really. As long as they're going somewhere, they're learning and they're gaining what they're there for. And they're passing on their information to other people and supporting other people. So with net weaving, it's really, it's getting your own trusted group of people around you that you're happy to put your name to. Because a lot of people will give referrals and they don't realise that if you give a bad referral, you'll wear it. It's really important to be aware that the person you refer, you really trust, and you're quite happy to put your name next to them because your name is gold to you.
So could you go a little bit deeper, Jennie, into why it's important for business owners to net weave? Because I really want our listeners to get the importance of this, to get why it's important to be a resource for other people and to go a little deeper. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I think the advantage is if you become a net weaver, you build a community. And by going to networking events, it's not necessarily building a community of people together. They're people who come in and out. But when you're net weaving, it's a very strong community. And it's sharing your information, sharing and promoting and educating each other about everybody else. It's getting away from that thought that what you do for yourself, not for other people.
Yeah.
That you're there to be a support, to be a backstop, to help educate, to refer other people who are in your network. It's not about referring yourself. It's the same with when people, it's more important for you to understand what someone else does than for them to understand what you do.
Yeah, so some of the elements of network,
sense?
Yeah, it does. And so, because no one really wants to just hear someone just talk about themselves anyway. And if you can share something that's going to benefit someone in a bigger way, that's going to come back to you in more ways than just that immediate kind of quick gratification, I suppose. So I guess the essential elements to net weaving is ultimately building a community and sharing and creating something that has strength in unity, I guess what you're saying.
Yeah.
But what are other essential elements to net weaving?
Well, that you become the expert in what it is that is you do, you think, or who you are. So become an expert in your line, and also become the expert at building lifelong personal and business relationships that give you the opportunity to refer your new referrers, the people you get to know and like, onto your network. Because net weaving is about referring and supporting and helping. It's just that you're not out there blowing your own bandwagon. You're out there doing it for everybody else. And this is where Facebook is so valuable when you get into Facebook or LinkedIn. Well, it's more so Facebook than anything else, because you get the opportunity to recommend other people. And I will be talking a little bit more about social media later. But social media has just opened the world to people for networking and then learning how to net weave, because it gives you the opportunity to talk about other people, to say things about it, to promote other people, and it hasn't cost you a cent to do it.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
It's very, very powerful. For me personally, my social media and between meetup groups as well, it takes me about 6 hours a day.
Okay.
That's a lot of time. But that's where my business comes from.
That's right. Yes,
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, yeah, so just on that, how much time do you spend on these different elements will depend, as you said earlier, who your niche is and where they are as to where you're spending that net weaving or networking time, I guess. And it boils down to your goals, as you mentioned earlier. What are your goals in the first place?
Well, yes, and if people need to understand why they're doing what they're doing. For me, I do go to a lot of events, 7, 8 a week. Usually, not this week, but usually I do. I don't suggest to anyone who is an early networker, unless you're very proficient at what you're doing and you can do what is necessary as a networker, I suggest you do no more than 2, maximum 3 in a week.
Okay.
Really, if you do a breakfast group, which is a weekly group, go to another network somewhere. Now, it's a matter of finding where. If you're lucky enough to have found where your niche is, that's great. If you haven't, I suggest you just go to groups. Always go twice to a group before you visit it. And the reason I say this is because it gives you the opportunity to meet someone who might not have been there the first time. And you then get a feeling, because if you go back a second time, you're a little bit more familiar with what is happening.
Yeah,
but always give a group 2 goes. And if it's not your network, you don't go back. If it is your network, well, then you do. Most groups are run on usually a monthly basis or a fortnightly basis, unless you're locked in to a membership that's a weekly one.
Yeah.
I suggest to people, if you're locked into a weekly one, you are limited to the number of people who will be in that group. And there will always be a number of people that you will do business with and you won't do business with. But I say that if you're going to refer anyone, please know about them, know about their business, do work with them. You need to use someone's business so that you can recommend them. Now, if they have a business that you can't use it, you have to do some research and find out to make sure you would really put your name next to that person. Because
I'm glad you've said that, because
referral.
you know some of the networks where it is limited to one person per industry, etc., and there's an expectation that you're expected to refer one another. But if you, I've always felt uncomfortable about that, because certainly don't want to put my name to anyone that I wouldn't personally recommend to a dear friend, literally. So I'm glad that you've touched on that, because I've often wondered about that.
Well, I've probably spent a good 15 years in weekly groups. And I've been in 3 different organisations that were weekly groups. For me, it's not the way I go, because I find that there's not a lot of people that I meet there. Usually they're new in business. And if I'm referring someone, I want someone who's well-versed in what they're doing. So it takes time to build that. So someone is going to refer you. It takes time, but you've got to build that trust with people. So if you want someone to refer you, you've got to let them into you and find out who you are and develop a relationship with them so they can build that trust to know that they could refer you on.
And that's why becoming proficient at networking first is so important. And for those who are listening who may have felt a bit discouraged with networking and are new to it, what Jennie's saying, it does take a little time to build that trust, but once you've built it, it's easy to build on. It's a skill. Sorry, what was that, Jennie?
Sorry, it's a skill. You just keep building on it.
Yeah. So, are there practical elements to net weaving? Is there like a way to do it? Are there steps to follow, a checklist? Can you give our listeners some tips on how to net weave?
Tips on how to net weave.
Yeah, or maybe a bit of the practical aspects. I'm a bit of a process girl.
Yeah, for me, the most important thing, the essential elements of net weaving are being a listener. Okay. You have to be able to listen. You have to listen to what people are saying, because if you really understand what someone is asking, you then, when you're talking to someone else and someone will say something and your mind is ticking over and you go, aha, I know who wanted someone who can do that. And depending on how you know that person, the most important thing when you refer someone, and if you refer someone you don't know well, is that you specify how you know them. So if I'm going to refer someone I've met because someone is looking for someone in an industry, I'm going to say, I met someone at a function I went to. They do this, this, and this, and you were looking for someone who does that. But I have never done business with them. I don't personally really know them, but they do what you're looking for.
Excellent.
And then you give that person who you're referring to the opportunity to decide for themselves whether they want to take that on. If you know somebody, you say, I know them, I trust them, I've worked with them for years, or they've supported my network, but specify how you know them. Because don't give a referral unless you say, I've done business or I haven't done business, or I know them or I don't know them. That's really, really important. is really also is having what I call an open heart. And it's really important to me, this is probably one of the most essential things, is that you like people. If you don't like people, forget about networking. Netweaving will never come to you. But even networking won't work for you because you have to like people, because you're relationship building. So if you are a personality style that finds people difficult, you're going to have to hone it a lot more than someone like me who just naturally has a curiosity about people. I love getting into their heads. When I meet people, I want to know what makes them tick. It's just a fascination I've had since I was a child. To me, I was brought up with who I could talk to and who I couldn't talk to. Being told, no, you can't speak to them because, or you can, this sort of thing. Okay. So I'm very much somebody who, I don't care where anybody comes from, who they are, what they've done. I let my relationship with them decide how I feel about them and whether I will do business with them. I won't judge someone until I have a reason to. I know judging isn't good, but it is something that I'll give everybody the benefit of doubt. Yes, you get hurt quite often as a result, but so be it for me. Netweaving is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week hobby. It's instinctive. It's never going to go anywhere. It's like, how can I put it? It's like never going anywhere without a business card. You never know who you're going to meet, who you can help, who you can support. If I go to buy a bottle of milk, I always have business cards on me.
Yes.
Because I might meet someone and it's easy for me just to hand them and say, give me a call if I can help you. Or if they're looking for someone, give me a call and so you can send or email me and I'll send you the information back. But it really has got to be an instinctive thing that you do every day. You're listening the whole time for what you can do to help someone else. It's not hard. It just becomes part of your life. I don't know a way to live.
Yeah, and I can... Sorry, go on.
That's all right. No, you go.
Look, I was just going to say I really relate to that, and I just want to ask a question, I guess, for my own benefit and hopefully for that of the listeners who are a bit this way, because I can't help but share information. It's kind of an innate thing that I do, and it's one of the reasons I do the teleseminars, because I love to share things with my own network that's going to benefit them. And, of course, being a good networker and a great net weaver is going to benefit my audience and you too. So it works well for everyone. So when you're in a networking environment, because I can't help but make recommendations if I see a need for somebody, but sometimes people can be a little bit like this, or a bit of a deer in the headlight. Oh, here comes Krishna, barraging them with all this fantastic information. So how do you manage that? Because it's kind of, you need to be mindful of people's own experiences in these groups and how they're going to take on information and things like that. Have you got any comment about that?
Yeah, I have. And it's all about learning how to read other people's, understanding people's learning styles. We all communicate different and we use different language. So, for instance, to give it from a learning style perspective, is someone visual? Are they kinesthetic, tactile? Are they auditory? Now, visual means when they talk, they're going to talk about, I see this. If they're kinesthetic, tactile, they're going to talk, I feel. If they're auditory, they're going to say, I hear. So you're using the different senses. Now, that is going to tell you a lot about people. If you don't understand learning styles, just Google learning styles.
Yeah. And
start learning about the different language that people use. When I write anything, I use the see, feel, hear.
Okay.
For each paragraph will be different. If you have a look at anything I write, I incorporate them into them all. The unfortunate thing in education, the way it has gone, is you have to be auditory. Now, I'll tell you, I am not auditory at all. 25% of our population are auditory, yet we teach in an auditory way in our universities and schools. No wonder so many kids turn off. We teach in an auditory way. There's only 25% who are going to get it anyway, and they're just because they understand it, they hear it. And so consequently, they wonder why kids aren't getting the information they need. Learning styles are probably the most important thing. If you want to be a net weaver, if you want to be a good networker, you have to understand how you communicate with people. And the first way to do that is to learn who are they? How does their brain take in information? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. So it's just a matter of honing that sense of how people are going to take it or perceive what you're saying or deliver it differently or whatever. So I'm hearing
people you're going to hug. They're going to be people you're not going to hug.
Yeah,
there are some people that need you to hug them because they want that closeness.
Yeah.
I'm a natural kinesthetic. I'm a visual kinesthetic. It's what I see and it's what I feel.
Mm-hmm.
But for some people, if you're, say, with a lot of, say, IT people who are have that logical, that sort of a brain, even though now we're getting more and more IT people who are visual and feelers, but a lot of them, they're totally auditory. They don't want you to touch them. They don't understand what you're talking about when you see something. They have to logically put it do it another way. So if you start coming on from a kinesthetic direction with someone who's a straight auditory, you're going to frighten them.
Yeah.
You've lost them before you've started because you haven't understood them.
For sure.
It's really about listening to what they're saying. To me, that's the most important thing, is what is it they're saying? What is it they're needing? How can I help them? Who do I have in my network that can support them?
And so I guess, I was just going to say, Jen, so I guess part of that is then when by listening we're actually asking questions, saying, so are you looking for this, or have you tried a certain thing, or who have you seen already for that? Actually asking some questions to develop the conversation a bit more?
Well, yes, and I really believe probably if you're going to be a networker, one of the first things you're going to do when you meet someone, you'll probably say to them, how can I help you?
Okay.
And people get shocked. What do you mean, how can I help you? You don't even know me. Well, what are you looking for? Why are you here? What can I do? I had someone actually a few weeks ago came to me, and it was a client actually who came to me and said, you absolutely terrified her. It was her first networking event she went to. And I asked her why she was there. How could I help her, but why was she there? She was dumbfounded. Until she came around to understanding, I was wanting to support her. I've now become friends with her. And now, yes, because she's got a great product, she makes her own. She's got jewelry, actually, and she makes her own beautiful jewelry. But, it was because nobody had ever asked her before. How can I help you? What are you looking for? Who are you? So a NetWeaver wants to find out how they can help you. Instead of most people, when they meet you, want to start talking about who they are.
Okay, so can we talk a bit about the concept of community, because it is a growing field in business. So, and you've already mentioned Facebook. How else might this community that we're growing manifest? What might that look like on our day-to-day, week-to-week activities? So as we build our community, what are we doing with that community? How are we interacting with them? What's it look like? Is it face-to-face? Is it by email, social media? What does that community look like? Can you clarify that?
Yeah, I believe they're probably all those things. Facebook, for instance, gives us the opportunity to actually meet people online to start building a relationship. I love Meetup. I have 4 Meetup groups, and they're all different, totally different areas. And the reason I like it, because it gives me then that opportunity to move people from Facebook into my events or someone else's events, whatever they're looking for. Because the face-to-face is important, because until you actually have someone face-to-face, you can't really read them. You can read a certain amount of what they say, but we just have to look at the amount of people who make it their life to track other people down and do things that aren't very nice. because they're able to do it without being in front of someone. So it's really important you get that face-to-face, even because by meeting someone, by looking at them, by feeling them, looking at their energy, it gives you that opportunity to know where you sit with them. You can't do that online.
The other thing I want to mention, sorry, Jenny, and the other thing with that, it's important to be congruent with who you are online and offline. Would you agree?
Very. I think with social media in particular, it's very important to remember that whatever you put there is there for life. You can't ever take it away. And a lot of people, unfortunately, put things out there. As far as I'm concerned, it's not a good way to go. For me, I don't have where I was born.
Okay.
I don't have where I went to school. I don't put the year of my birth. Because if somebody's wanting to do tracking, if you give them a lot of that information, you've got to be really careful, because whatever you put out there, it's there so Facebook can track you. They can make sure they send you the advertising you need to build whatever. They have a reason for all those questions they put there. It's not necessarily for your best interest.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, really important what information you put out there and what you say, the language you use, how you want to be seen. And because in social media you're not being physically seen, but I am involved I work with Diana Zalava, and we actually do social media. We train in that area. So for me, for anyone in my network, my aim is to have them trained in social media to the best of their ability. Because if they learn how to use social media well, they can then develop their relationships that can take them where they want to go. I have developed the most incredible relationships as a result of Facebook more than anything else. The personal friends I now have, I'd say 85% of my business comes via social media.
Yeah. And
my friendships come via social media because I take that next step into developing physically that relationship also.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Jenny, too. I feel the same about social media, because you're able to connect with people who are your community, who are like-minded, who you resonate with well,
right.
That click with you. And that's really exciting, especially if you felt like a bit of a misfit through your life and things like that, for whatever reason.
And I think
social
that
media.
To all of us in different.
Yeah.
We all have that time we feel that because we're in an environment that isn't our environment. It's recognizing, thinking that's not where I want to be. I want to be here. But, I think the social media aspect people need to develop that if they want to be a networker and a netweaver. Your website, your e-newsletters, it's your professionalism within what you do that's important.
Okay, well, I'd love to ask you a question about groups on Facebook then, because I have seen you initiate some excellent groups on Facebook, and people are a bit willy-nilly with the whole group thing, and these groups popping up all over the place, and then you get bamboozled with all this stuff and promotional stuff, and it gets a bit irritating at times. Can you give us some tips for what makes good community group activity on Facebook? Maybe some etiquette tips. Would that help? Would that be good for our listeners, do you think?
Well, yes. I think I'm very happy to have anybody's information. A lot of people, they want to switch off this or switch off that. Mm-hmm. Well, don't be a part of groups. Don't be a part of a group if you don't want the information. Because if you're a networker or a netweaver, that information, I always open everyone that comes in, and they come into my inbox. Other people have them in separate files. I have them in front of me. I open everyone. I see what it is. Because I don't know who I'm going to find there who may be able to help someone I know. Because if I'm listening to what all the people around me are saying, who they're needing, what direction they're going, there's going to be people I don't know until I look for how I can help them. So somebody might come up there and I think, I didn't know you did that. And you can build on it. Or it might be someone I don't know. I don't go out looking for friends on Facebook. I'd probably ask maybe 3 or 4 people a month to join me.
Okay.
My Facebook people have all come from people they wanted to join me.
Yeah.
Really important when someone wants to connect with you is if you're going to confirm them, you send them an email. Now, for me, when anyone asks, I automatically go directly to their name into their site. You're limited with some people what you can see and what you can't see, so it depends how they have their settings. I'm a great believer, if you're going to be out there, you should be out there.
Yeah.
If you're going to limit it, how do I know, if you've got no information about you there, for me, how do I know whether I want to join you or not, or have you in my group?
Yes, totally.
Look at it from the other perspective. But, yesterday I had joined with somebody and I looked at their stuff and I don't like them. I unfriended them.
Okay.
Because I couldn't get in to find out who they were without confirming.
Sure.
And then I got in, had a good look, and said, no, I don't need to have you in my network. I don't want to connect with you. But write a note to anybody that you confirm. So I don't ever confirm until I've gone on to their group, had a look, if I am able to, and then I write a note to them.
It's interesting what you're saying. So I just want to reflect and just emphasize that point that you're making, because what you're saying is, it's a mindset. The networking concept is a mindset, because instead of going, oh, gee, you people are annoying, don't do this, don't do that, what you're saying is, I want to know more about you. I'm interested in the information you have to share. Then you become a resource for others by going, oh, yes, I know exactly the person who has what. So you're like a walking encyclopedia of stuff that people can help.
You do become that because if you're going to be a net weaver, you want to become the expert, so people will come to you. You want to become... my phone rings continue, or people send me emails. I want to meet you. I want to pick your brains. I want to this. Do you know that? Do you know this? Do you know? Who are these people? People ask me about people for me to give an opinion on someone. You need to become that resource so people, when they want to know anything, they know to talk to you. Because they know if you can't help them, you know someone who can.
So, Jennie, do you think that net weaving is the domain for certain personality types then? That obviously some of us are going to be more comfortable with it, but do you feel it's important for all kinds of businesses? Why is it important for business owners to all net weave, or should some of us not bother?
Well, I think the way of the world is we all need to be doing it, because we need to build better relationships and care about other people a little bit more. And look at where other people are coming from.
Yeah.
What their mindset is. Why do they think the way they are? We are only who we are as a result of how we were parented. What happened to in the first 8 years of our lives. That is what molds us. It's not until we get older we have an opportunity, if we're wise enough, to have a look and say, that does not serve me anymore. So the world needs people to come together. They've got to stop fighting and deciding, well, okay, it's like the whole war stuff that goes on between the Christian, the Muslim world and the non-Muslim world. That is their stuff, as our stuff is our stuff. Neither is right, neither is wrong. So I see net weaving exactly the same. You have to look from another person's point of view. You don't have to like what they say. You don't have to like who they are particularly. But you have to understand they are right for themselves. And this is where we have to become more, what's the word I can use? We have to sort of see people for who people are without judging them.
Yes, for sure.
We have to become more accepting, more compassionate. Everybody does the best they can with what knowledge they've got. Netweaving is exactly the same. Everybody in your group, wherever your group is, everyone's doing the best they can. It's just that some people aren't as fortunate as others with some of the things that happen to them in their lives. But it's helping to educate them, I suppose. Yeah.
So we really are in it together. We are one big community, and it's just a matter of how you put your feelers out and
find your community that suits you.
You find your community, So that's really what it's all about, finding your own community.
Yep, and become the sphere of influence in your community, become the expert in your industry.
Yeah.
And you can do that by becoming a speaker. You need to learn where your niche market is. Understand your own strengths and challenges. And if you understand what your challenges are, then in turn people can help you to overcome those challenges. I have people who are in my mastermind groups. It's really interesting because they get to know me very, very well, just as I get to know them very well. But I know their strengths and challenges or weaknesses, whatever you want to call it, as they do mine. But we support each other, and I have one particular friend who keeps reminding me all the time. She's in all my groups, and I met her actually over the net. So that's how I did meet her. But we need people around us who do challenge us and understand where our challenges are.
Could we talk a bit about mastermind? Can we talk a bit about masterminds? Because I know it's a real passion of yours, and I'm in 2 mastermind groups. I absolutely love them. I couldn't keep going without them because when you hit an obstacle or a hump, it's your mastermind group that help you to move forward. And for anyone who isn't in a mastermind group, you need to find one. So can we explore mastermind groups because we've got a little bit of time, and then we'll hear a bit more about the other stuff you're doing. So can you give us a bit of a rundown of why they're so great?
Well, I think especially for people who are in business on their own or in a small business or people who don't have people that they can share information with, my mastermind groups are probably very different to anyone else's. I have developed my own formula. I've been doing this for 3 years, and at long last, I've developed a formula that I know works. And it's a very confidential place you're in. You can talk about anything in your business and know it's totally secure. The mastermind group itself, it needs to be that it's a period of time. It's not a just come in and go out because of the confidentiality aspect. Mm-hmm. And it's all about developing good, strong business and personal relationships as well, so you can learn to talk about anything. Because a lot of things that challenge us in businesses are because of something that's happening in our personal world or how our thinking is. So I'm a great believer in keeping people accountable. And when you're in a mastermind group, if in the way they do it, you have that accountability. I have what's called a buddy system, and they have to meet within that, because they meet twice a month, but they have to meet in between those meetings as well, because they are actually going to goal set what they're going to do between now and the next meeting, and they're going to be kept accountable for that, and they're going to have to report back to the group that what they've done and haven't done. So the accountability part of masterminding is really, really important. Now, I don't know if other groups do that, but that is what I do. I find also that people need to be able to talk about their challenges. We need to brainstorm challenges as well. Some people will open about a lot of things that they wouldn't normally open up to with other people. I've seen the most amazing breakthroughs in people's businesses because they've opened up about what's happening in their personal life. Because if you're developing relationships with people, if they don't understand what's happening in your life, they can't support you because there's always going to be a block there. Masterminding is for me is just the most incredible resource anyone in business can have, because it will move you to the next level if you're prepared, but you've got to put into it what you need to make you move to that next level, because you're the only one who can do it. I've got articles up about it on my website. There's actually an area in my products and services called mastermind groups that will tell you all about masterminding. I follow the Napoleon Hill philosophy of masterminding, the Think and Grow Rich philosophy. Yes, it's just about, I don't even know where to start. I get so excited about it because I just love it. I do have a third one about to start on the 20th, and it just for me, because I facilitate, I'm not in the group because it's impossible to be in the group because I'd be thinking about what's happening with me. I need to be able to facilitate it so those people in turn get the best that they can for themselves. They paid the money for that, so they need to be able to get what it is they need. But my groups are responsible for the group. So if there's someone in the group and they want them out, they have a right to put them out too. That's very important. I decide who's coming into the group because energetically it's really important to know that people are going to synergize together. So from that perspective, I will set the group up, but the group is responsible for the group. I just keep them on track because it's a very, very tight formula I work with. So if someone doesn't keep them on track, you can go off very, very easily.
Definitely.
That answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And I want to encourage people to find a mastermind group. And as Jennie says, and do you think, Jennie, that it's like, would you choose people within a mastermind group that have different skill sets and things like that, different elements to contribute to the group, but also resonate okay with one another? So it's kind of a mixture of both things.
Well, I think, yes, it's a mixture of a whole lot of things. It's the willingness of the person to want to go to that next step and knowing there could be a bit of pain in that next step at times if they don't flow with it for themselves. I actually have a question and answer sort of thing I send out to people, and if they can answer yes to those things, then they're ready for a mastermind group.
Okay.
Because someone's got to be ready to go into that situation.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of what's called an open mastermind group that you go if you want to and go if you don't, and it depends who you've got speakers. I will allow speakers in, but never when if I have a speaker, depending on the number of sessions within a group, the speaker will never be there while we're holding a meeting in any way.
Okay.
Because it's totally confidential what happens in that room.
Yeah.
And it has to be. If people are going to talk about their businesses, their IP, their finances, what's going on for them, they've got to feel secure. And an open group cannot do that.
No, that's true. And it takes even for a closed group, it takes a little time for that trust to build so that people can openly share.
But I do find now, because of the way I have it structured, that it only takes a couple of sessions.
Yeah.
It's surprising how fast that connecting comes in. And I believe it's because of the formula I've got. I do want to actually license a formula before the end of the year. It's another thing to do. Yes. Because I really believe I've cracked it. And there's nobody else doing it because it's come out of my brain.
Yeah, very good.
Beg your pardon?
Very good. Coming out of your brain, that's excellent.
Well, it was a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
Along the way, learning. I ran a lot of groups, and each group they would get better and better because I'd be learning more and reading more and understanding more what people, how to make it, hone those skills. And even though it doesn't mean I've got the formula, but that will still develop into more with each group. People have manuals and they have things. They're just things they need to do, and it's very, very exciting. And people who come to them, they just love it.
Yeah, exactly.
The people now who come to them, there was a lot of learning curves in the early days.
Yes.
Now the people who come, they can't wait for their next meeting.
Yeah, because it really does help you move forward.
It does help you move forward.
Yep.
Because we all get stuck.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Jennie, we've covered a lot in this hour, don't you think?
Yeah, but I've hardly covered anything. The one thing I would like to mention, though, and something that really is important about net weaving, it's a business version of paying it forward.
Okay.
I don't know. Have you seen the movie?
Yes,
Paying
I have.
It Forward?
Yep.
Okay. Well, it's really what I call the business version of that. For those who haven't seen the movie, I suggest you get it out from the video shop. It's a really interesting story, and it was a book that was written by Catherine Ryan Hyde, and it's about a small boy who comes up with a simple idea which changes the world. And the concept basically is when someone does you a favour, rather than paying the person back, you pay it forward. You do it to someone and do a favour for someone else. It's a very simple concept, and it's one that does work. And that's what net weaving's all about, really.
Yeah, I love it.
The business version of that. So if you sort of think of the pay it forward movie and you do that from a business perspective, that's net weaving.
Yeah. Perfect. That was succinct.
Did you like that?
I did. So I want to invite people on the line to go to connectionsunlimited.com.au. Now, connections is spelt, so we've got www.connectionsunlimited.com.au. So it's connections with an X, unlimited.com.au. You can subscribe to Jennie's 21-day e-course, and also you need to check out this networking self-appraisal because, I think we'd all like to know, even for those of us that have been networking for a long time, to actually see how we're tracking with our networking.
Well, and also understand there may be things you won't want that don't suit you and what you do there.
Yeah,
and that is
sure.
okay.
Now, where do we find the self-appraisal form on your site, Jennie? Is that fairly obvious to find? There's a link on the web page.
Go to the products and services.
Okay.
And it's the self-appraisal is in there. I haven't got it up in front of me, but the self-appraisal will be in there. Information about masterminding, information about my different articles. If you're not with me on Facebook, I'd love to have you joined with me. If you've got Tweet Chat app, that photo that is there is the picture's very similar to the one that's on my Facebook or all my social media. And I love connecting with people.
Yeah, beautiful.
I just can't get enough.
What I'll do, Jennie, I'll send out the replay recording and I'll send a couple of links to your different stuff so people can connect with you today and over the coming days as they listen to the replay. So thank you so much for joining us on Healthy Marketing today. It's been a wealth of information and lots for us to not only think about but to actually put into action. And if you are in the Brisbane area to, come and do some of your workshops, learn how to network better and all of those things, and just to hook into all the amazing services that you're providing to us. So have you got plans to take that beyond Queensland, Jennie?
Yes, I do. I'm looking, with my NetWeaving Queensland membership group that I'm just launching at the moment. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be taking that to Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, out of Brisbane, and then I will move it around. But at the moment, I'm involved with setting up another club as well.
Yeah, good.
Ideas. I can't help myself. So yes, my intention is to go further afield, but I really believe people have to make their base where they are. And really concentrate on that and then move out. And, of course, there are a lot of differences. For me, it's easy because I'm on my own. I can do what I want when I want, whereas a lot of people can't because they have family and have people who are dependent on them, and so they're not a free agent like I am. But, I intend to take it further if people want it.
Wonderful. Well,
thank you. I'm happy to.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Sorry.
If they're ready to learn, that's what they say. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right?
That's right. That's right.
So I think you've probably appeared for a few people today, Jennie.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, well, thank you. You have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing the new people that are going to connect with your network, and certainly I'll be in there and having a chat and sharing and paying it forward and all of those things. So thanks again for some wonderful things to think about.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak with your listeners and look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Thank you, Jennie. You have a good day.
Okay.
And thank you to all our listeners and those on the replay.
Thanks. Bye.